Hello everybody and welcome to another Supreme Commander 2 video. Today I'll be doing an introduction to what is hopefully going to become a tutorial series, and I'll start out by doing a 1v1 against the cone and try to explain as much as what try to explain as much of what I'm doing and what I could be doing as possible. So yeah, let me just pause this. Right away you can see that Open Palms is a pretty big map, and usually the rule of thumb is that on really small maps, on really small distances, something like between these two spawns, if you're playing like a 3v3 between these two spawns, the only viable strategy, the only thing you could do is triple land, free land factories, because land units have the most damage output and health out of any unit. Well, if you don't include experimentals, but early on land units are the most powerful ones. But the problem with them is mobility. So you can see that on this map. You're playing corner to corner, and that is quite a lot of distance to cover, and usually it's much more... Well, freeland is definitely possible here, but it's much better to invest into either airplanes or research, because you can totally get away with having slightly less land units, which you definitely want to have some of, because this map isn't that big, or yeah, it doesn't have that much of heavy terrain that you can hold with choke points. But yeah, definitely investing into something that's gonna pay off late game, like air or research, is much more worth it here. Oh yeah, if you're planning to build airplanes, you should probably drop the air factory first, because airplanes are so fast that even having one or two more airplanes than the enemy is enough to win the air fight immediately, yeah. But UEF can totally get away with placing the air factory a bit later, because not only do they build airplanes faster and cheaper than the other factions, even if it's a UEF mirror like this, his airplanes aren't going to be able to bomb, because well, obviously it's gonna start off with fighters, and you can just chill your airplanes in the back of your base here and maybe like a factory. I don't know. It's definitely better to... Yeah, UEF can totally get away with not building the air factory first, but with any other faction, you gotta drop the factory first before mass. Alright, I'll speed it up a bit. There you go. So you want to find the balance between expanding as fast as you can, but still being able to hold that expansion. Usually what people do on this map, which isn't very recommended, is going straight for these quadruple mass deposits on the sides. I mean, it is a lot of mass, but it's pretty far away from your base, and you're not going to be able to hold it against anything. Not against airplanes, not against, you know, land rush, like triple land. Oops, I'll drop this. And the first airplane you build, you always want to scout with it, because intel is truly the most important thing in this game, in any RTS game. Yeah, knowing has half the battle. Alright, I'll slow it down so I can talk a bit for now. Right, you can see a cone building free land factories. Totally works here, but I'll have to change up what I'm doing a bit to prepare for that. I don't recommend taking these front mass. You wanna maximize the distance between your base and the enemy base as much as possible. That reminds me, whoop, go back there, and switch to bombers, since fighters aren't gonna be of any use now. So we're gonna maximize the travel time between... Well, I probably shouldn't be speaking in plural. I'm going to maximize the travel time between my base and his base by building all of my stuff as far back as I can. So, well, I already did a video on travel time. I'm not gonna explain it again. But basically I'll try to abuse that as much as I can. So even though he has more land units, when we finally meet here, we're gonna have about the same number, but the important thing is that I'll have some bombers to back me up, or gunships, but yeah, you can't do gunships this early on. You want to start with fighters before even thinking about going bombers or gunships. I think I forgot to say that, because you know, you can build a couple dozen bombers and go for some harassing run, but if the enemy has fighters, that's just gonna get shot down instantly. It's basically the same as them having anti-air everywhere. You need to, before you can start building bombers or gunships, you need to be absolutely sure that you have more fighters than the enemy, so you can protect your gunships or bombers. And usually when it's a 1v1 and there's an, you know, both players are making airplanes, usually it's not even gonna come to making bombers or gunships until there's a big fight, and usually with that fight the game's decided anyway. But yeah, no fighters here, no air factories, which means I can start making these boys. But if you see the enemy with, if you see them having an air factory, you do not want to, yeah, you want to keep producing fighters. If they have more air factories than you usually want to add factories as well, because air is such a heavy mass investment, even just the factory alone, that you know, you do not want to lose air superiority and let them bomb you. But for now, Account's gonna have to get away by building like anti-air turrets on the way. Mobile anti-air for land units is not very good because they have a very low health pool, first of all, so they're quite easily killed. The range isn't that great, so they can't protect as much area. Oh god, it's gonna be hard talking and playing at the same time. And I'm not sure, but I think the damage output isn't that great either. So yeah, usually it's better to like build 1-2 turrets on the way and keep focused on tanks and missile launchers. And yeah, a lot of people like to build up like an army of bombers before they even think about attacking. Was that shot? No. For a second I thought something was shooting the bomber, but it was just the bomb. What was I talking about? Yeah, I have no clue. Oh yeah. Yeah, a lot of people like to build up a lot of bombers before they start bombing. But really, you can wreak havoc with a couple of them anyway. It's not worth waiting before attacking. You can see that even with 3 bombers, I already forced the Cone to build like anti-air add-ons on his factories, which I'm not sure was that great of an idea. Maybe you want to wait with that a bit, because early on you can get away with repairing all the stuff. Oh, I'll pause this guy. Repairing all of the stuff that's getting bombed, and yeah. Oof, that's gonna be close. Yep, that was very close. Is that an anti-air tower? I think, yes, that's an anti-air tower. So I'll just wait for him to come to me. I kind of need that radar. I'll stop the factory for a sec. There you go. Okay, I think I'll pause it again. Right. So now you can see that I have about 10-ish, soon 11 mass extractors, while a Cone can only afford to protect like these 7-6 mass extractors with anti-air. The moment he tries to expand here, it's gonna get bombed. By the way, quick tip, you need 8 bombers exactly to instantly kill an engineer with 1 pass. So even if he tried building anti-air towers with like his engineer, that would get killed instantly. Well, so long as you have the intel, which is why you gotta keep flying all around the base and keep checking if they're not expanding. But yeah, basically, he would have to go out of his way with his commander to build the anti-air tower, and it's not very efficient. But you can see that even on the way to my base, there's a lot of mass extractors he can take on the way. that'll fall into the cover of the anti-air towers, and at the same time keep pushing the front line closer to me. I should start making missile launchers as well, and I think energy's fine. But... oh, it's not really possible to give orders reliably when the speed is so low. But yeah, now I'm gonna have to try to defend, and anytime he moves out of the anti-air, he can get bombed, and it's gonna be really micro-intensive because he's gonna be constantly under the threat of being bombed while he's attacking me. And obviously, when you're fighting tanks versus tanks, you want to like keep them as close together as you can, or maybe give them the attack order with like the A key and make sure that all of them are firing. But in both of those scenarios, all the tanks are really bunched up together, and they get hurt real bad by bombers. So anytime I'm gonna try to go for a bombing run, he's gonna try to spread his unit. Well, I mean, now it's like, yeah, it's really slow down, so it's pretty easy. But anytime I try to bomb you can see that that's quite a lot of micro to spread your... that wasn't that great either, but yeah, it's quite a lot of micro to spread your army and take less damage from the bombs. And anytime I'm trying to bomb his base or trying to scout around, he's going to be able to push in freely and, yeah, attack. That's something you have to remember against air players, against someone making airplanes. You don't have to completely spam anti-air everywhere all over your base instantly. You can just keep pushing them, and as long as you're applying pressure, they're going to have to keep their bombers back, defending their own turf. And looks like it's time for tactical missile launcher add-ons, which are also going to make it really hard to, yeah, build anti-air turrets and all of that. Right. Yeah. Let's get back to the fight. Normally I would go P-shields, but I wanna try to keep it simple. I don't wanna mix all of that in. You can see the tactical missile launcher totally has enough range to hit that. By the way, quick tip about... I'm so sorry, Akon. Quick tip about the tactical missile launcher add-ons. The moment you build them... Actually, the moment you build them, they're gonna target the closest structure that's in range in this red circle, which in that case is whatever that is, probably an anti-air tower, and they're gonna keep shooting it until it's dead. Yeah, that's definitely an anti-air tower. Rest in peace, that bomber. But in case there isn't a structure in the area, it's gonna target the closest unit, which could be the tank or the commander in this case, and it's gonna keep shooting that until it dies. So you don't want to build the tactical missile launchers too early, because they're gonna target some random land unit, and they're gonna keep trying to kill it until it's dead. They're gonna ignore any structures that they build after, you know, your tactical missile launcher add-ons. So you only ever want to build them reactively after a structure has been built inside the range of that. Right. Oh god. I have the microphone on push to talk, so I'm probably not gonna talk while microing my units. Yeah, I have to pause it every time I need to talk. You can see that even though Akon has one more factory than me, all of this distance, his units need to travel all of that to get to me, but any unit I build is already in my base. It's already like on the front line where I need it. So you can see that we roughly have the same amount of tanks actually. And maybe he probably needed to pause his factories as well to build those anti-air towers, because that's a lot of anti-air. Maybe even more mass was spent on that than, yeah, how much I spent on the airplanes and the air factory. Alright, I'll yeah, I'll start fighting now, which means less talk. He's keeping his units too far behind his command, which means that they're not firing when my units are firing. But you can see that those missile launchers can almost hit that anti-air tower there, so it's really hard to keep those alive. You usually wanna keep that under a factory shield. But you can see that there's an omnipotent threat of bombers always close by, so he has to be very careful not to group his units too much. Otherwise, yeah, the bombers can swoop in and get a lot of, yeah, do a lot of damage. And you can see that anti-air tower is already in range. It's really hard to, oh god, I have so much mass. It's really hard to protect. It's really hard to protect whatever I was just talking about. I already forgot. It's not easy to talk and play at the same time. But I think I'll need more missile launchers to get through all of those factory shields. And I'll... oh, he's doing P-shields. Well, yeah, we'll see how that goes. Alright, time to talk a bit again. Since he has so much anti-air here and P-shields, I'm not really going to be able to bomb that very often, so I can use that time until I have more bombers and, you know, I can afford to fly into the anti-air and not lose too many bombers while still dealing a lot of damage. I can definitely use that time to fly around and check if he's not trying to expand to the back or to the front, because really, when you're going for air control, you're going to have a big advantage in map control as well. And you're going to be able to expand a lot more, like, to this spot and, you know, all of the back, while he's limited to, you know, expanding in the direction that he's attacking in. Yeah, that's everything I had to say, I think. I'll have to go repair my ICU. But yeah, I'm definitely not using my mass right. You want to keep your mass as close to 0 as you can. But I'm having a lot of trouble playing while talking. Yeah. I think I'll try P-shields as well. But yeah, usually when you're doing a P-shield strat, you only need like 8, 10 tanks, and then just go straight for P-shields 100% with some... yeah, maybe some missile launchers mixed in, so not exactly 100%. But you only want to have... you only want to add, like, damage outputters? DPS units when you need to. Yeah, usually having more shields is better, because if you have more shields, you're taking damage to the shields while the enemy is slowly using units. God, I'm not gonna get hit by artillery while distracted. That would be a disaster. You're gonna keep taking damage to your shields, which are renewable, completely renewable for free, while the enemy is slowly using units. So the longer the battle goes on for, the better for you it becomes. I'm sorry, I'm really trying to focus on this so I don't get hit by the artillery. Is it slowed down? No, it's +1, that's weird. But yeah, don't forget that you can also ground fire your... this is a disaster. You can ground fire your units. I have all the artillery on like a control group, so I can select them anytime I need to. And when you select the ground fire mode, you press A on your keyboard, and you can sort of fire like in the middle where all the units are, because if he's just gonna keep moving left, right, then he can dodge most of the shots coming his way. But when you start ground firing, when you start predicting where the shots... Oh god, I forgot about my bombers. When you start predicting where the shots are gonna land, you can hit the units a lot more reliably. And I'll start making more tactical missile launches since he's building up a base. There you go. That's def. That was a real chunky hit in there. I'm dropping a turret, so I have like a place to retreat to in case the shields drop. So it's not so easy for him to chase my tanks. But yeah, you can see that he's at a big disadvantage since all of his units have to travel. I'm not even using the bombers. Oh my god, that's like supposed to be the cornerstone of the strategy, and I'm just keeping them there. Oh. I think he's trying to expand there. That might be an engineer. Not on my watch. Bam, there it goes. You only need 8 bombers, but yeah. If you have like land training or some shit, then it's obviously not gonna be... It's obviously gonna be more than 8. I think I'll switch to gunships, because those are... Well, I mean, the game's already over anyway. But gunships are really tanky, and they can totally go through anti-air. So no matter how many turrets he would build up in here, I mean, most of his mass would go into the land units anyway, so he wouldn't be able to afford that much anti-air anyway. But yeah, like 20 gunships can totally melt through like 4 turrets, 2 factory shields. It's yeah, they have a lot of health and a crazy damage output. I'm sorry I didn't even get to use the bombers. Yeah, but you want to like keep them close, so the enemy is always aware that they exist, and they're stressed out and careful not to group their units too much. Maybe you do like a little fake bombing run from time to time. Oh, yeah, that happens to the best of us. Maybe you do like a little fake bombing run from time to time to make them spread their units, which makes it easier for your land units to win the fight. Wow, this is really turning into a basically isn't it? I was kind of hoping that would end with, yeah, that whole thing ending. Well, yeah. I totally fucking forgot what I was talking about. Okay, I'll try to talk a bit before the game ends. Actually, I'll make sure the game doesn't end too soon. Right. I should have definitely expanded more to, you know, these things maybe. Well, maybe it wouldn't have been that easy to defend since you could just send a few missile launches every time my bombers are busy in here. But I don't know, maybe this amount of expansion is about as much as you need when a game like this happens. But yeah, when you're building airplanes, fighters first, scout. If you see more air factories than you do, you usually want to add your own air factories. Maybe even pause the land if you have to. Oh, by the way, you can double click to select everything on your screen and then press S on your keyboard to stop queue. It's much better than pausing, because it gives you back the mass from whatever's been building. If you pause the factory, it's gonna finish the unit that's being built. But yeah, maybe like stop all of your factories to get the mass back, build an air factory, and focus on the air fight. Because if you're investing into the air fight, that's really expensive and you really don't want to lose that. If you see no airplanes, then either, depending on the map size, you can switch like 100% gunships, not even any land factories, just as a UEF you can get away with like 3 air factories spamming, well, first bombers, because you need a bit of research to get the gunships to harass all their expansions and keep them from harassing if they send like 3 tanks here, 3 tanks there, You can probably defend that with like 6 bombers and, you know, prevent the enemy from killing some of your mass, and then switch to full gunships. They're gonna keep getting closer. Don't forget that then they cannot scout. They don't have airplanes, so they don't know what you have in your base. They're gonna keep getting closer, building radar and anti-air turrets on the way. But once you reach like 20, 30 gunships, it doesn't matter how many anti-air towers they have in there, you're just gonna melt the ACU with the ridiculous damage output. You can see the gunships with like double the health of, normal planes. But hey, if you're not into that, you can just have like one air factory making bombers to make sure they don't expand too much and invest the rest into land units. If you're fighting someone making airplanes, as you know, from a Cone's perspective, I think he did basically everything he had to do. Yeah, he did it well, but the problem is that I got like a few big hits on his army with artillery in here, and that's what turned the tide of battle. But maybe you definitely gotta be aggressive with land. Because if you have land, you don't have scouts, if you have land only, I mean. You don't have scouts, so you don't know what the enemy is doing. If they have research, that's an investment into late game. And early on it's gonna be useless, but if you wait too long, they're gonna have experimentals or ACU upgrades like Overcharge. If they have airplanes, that's also not gonna be that strong early on, but it's gonna keep gaining strength as the time passes. So you also want to attack early with that. And if they have land units, well, as long as you keep pushing, you're gonna find those soon enough. If you build a radar, you might even see that they have as much land as you do, so they also did a free land rush. In that case, if you happen to be in like a mirror sort of situation where both you and the enemy did the same thing, it's better to pause the facts for a while, have slightly less units than the enemy and rely on travel time, and invest all the mass you have into mass extractors, into economy, because that's really gonna snowball into mid game and late game, and win you the game. I think that's everything I had to say for this match. Here's some stats if you're interested into that, and when you're playing 1v1s, definitely save your replays and watch them later. See what you could have done better. Try to put yourself in the perspective of your enemy and, you know, think, how would I attack this person? How would I counter whatever he's doing? And try to, like, fill those weaknesses, fill those holes. And, keep working on your build, on your micro. Usually builds come from experimentation and seeing what works and what doesn't work. But early on, if you have no idea what to do, I mean, just copying other people is fine. But keep in mind that a build order isn't something you can just write down and do every single game. Maybe like the first few buildings really is set in stone. But then you can also read a lot of information from the scoreboard, bar, and also from radar and scouts. And you want to adapt to whatever your enemy is doing. Try to remember the exact order in the order of whatever you're gonna build. You want to remember, how do I react to this? How do I react to that? What do I build when I scout and I see 2 research, 1 land? What do I do? What do I do when I see 2 air? That's what you want to work on, instead of remembering, 1 land, 2 mass, 2 factories, 3 generator. Instead of remembering these like super precise builds that aren't reactive, that don't adapt to what your enemy is doing. Because when you're doing that, you're just rolling the dice and hoping for the best. And that's pretty much everything. That's everything for today. And thank you for watching. And outro.mp4. yeah, and um